Howdy, my name is Nonat, and this video is honestly a long time coming. The title is not clickbait or a lie. We are reacting to the single most controversial video I ever posted to YouTube. And believe it or not, this is gonna make everybody feel kind of old if you've been following me. This video was from 3 years ago. Yeah, my 4-year anniversary is coming up next April, which blows my mind that Nonat1s has been around this long. So if you've been around for the ride, even recently, thank you. You've made my dream job come true. And also, I have a lot of really big stuff in the works. I've been putting in a lot of hours of work on stuff that is taking a long time, so hopefully that'll be worth it when it comes out. But I wanted to make sure you guys got a video this week, and don't worry, the other class guides are coming for PF2. They're just taking their time. It's hard to drum up motivation to make videos I've already made before. But for now, let's put our giant lime green headphones on and react to a response to Taking 20 regarding Pathfinder 2E. I said a lot in this video. This video is my 7th most viewed of all time. I also missed my old banner. Oh my god, I forgot about the Nonat1's banner flag that we used to have. Holy cow. And I want to see if I agree with my own points from back then. You know, I'm not here to re-stir the pot about drama that's 3 years old regarding one content creator. I am watching this much more for myself, because for a lot of people, this is how they found me. This was their first Nonat1's impression. So I want to see what people, saw first of me, and I want to see if I still agree with myself. Also, I missed that jacket. Where's my fighter jacket? I want that jacket. Anyway, let's roll.
As the players begin to level, patterns emerge. And when I say patterns, I mean cookie.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Whoa, I'm lightheaded. Okay. Howdy. My
Comedic
name is
timing.
Nonat, and I would like to preface this video the exact same way Cody prefaced his.
Nonat, please shave your beard. Please, even right now I'm not perfect. Please get rid of this. Whatever you're doing over here, with the pubic hair up your chin, please get rid of it. Oh my god. At least it's not as bad as the mustache phase.
I am biased. My thoughts and opinions
That was
are
good. That
swayed
was really
by
good.
my own personal experiences and will not line up with everyone else's. That being said, I do have some counter-arguments to Cody's complaints in his most recent video.
Alright, what
If
are
you're
they?
not aware, Taking 20 just released a video titled, I'm quitting Pathfinder 2E because of this issue. If you haven't already, I highly recommend going and checking out his video before watching the rest of this one to get the full context of what I'm going to be talking about here.
It's really interesting because it seems like after this whole debacle, Taking 20 kind of quieted down. Like, he kept posting for the next year or two, but then especially this year, yeah, he has not uploaded in over a year, which is wild. I have no idea what happened. I just remember there was a lot of backlash going in every direction, Like, nobody came out of this weird, stupid system drama unscathed. And so I know for every lick of hate I was getting, I know Cody was getting one too. So it's not easy. I don't agree with all the choices he made. I don't talk to the guy. But I don't think anybody deserves to be talked to like they're less than human for preferring or disliking one game system. But that's for the comments section, I suppose.
The long and short of his video comes down to one major complaint that Cody has with the entirety of the Pathfinder 2E system, and that is the
Illusion of choice.
I forgot that's where this came from. I forgot that's where the illusion of choice meme came from. Oh god, that's right. Oh, memories. Years of suppressed memories. God, that was a meme in the Pathfinder community for like 2 straight years. Illusion of choice. Oh god. It's so wrong, too. Like, holy cow. I mean, I'll get into my own opinions in the video once I get into my own opinions in the video, but I still do not believe in the illusion of choice whatsoever, even less so than I did. Like, especially with all the new content and all the new options and how well balanced everything is, I do not believe in illusion of choice whatsoever.
An illusion of choice. Illusion of choice.
illusion of choice. It's the idea
That's a
that
good edit.
players are presented with dozens upon dozens of feats to choose from and customize, but they are forced to take and use only the best ones.
Regardless of the variance in enemies and backdrops and surprise ambushes or dockside brawls or dragon totems out in the jungle, the players all do the exact same thing over and over and over and over again.
This is a difficult claim to dispute because Cody is clearly speaking from his experience.
Look at this guy. Look at this Nonat. Just like, you know what? I don't agree with a word you just said, but I will play devil's advocate for you. God, I was diplomatic. Look at those eyes. Look at those diplomatic eyes. Now my eyes are full of sadness and trauma because I'm almost 30.
He's been running Age of Ashes with his group for a full year now.
Age of Ashes, apparently, the worst AP. Like, out of all of them, the worst adventure path.
And every combat and encounter has felt samey and repetitive because all of his players have been forced to play the same way to be optimal. And I don't think he's wrong. He goes on to say that D&D 5e suffers from the exact same problem, but he'd rather use a simpler system when it comes to doing the exact same thing.
That's an interesting claim nowadays, because on a personal level, I think that's fine. On a personal level to think, yeah, a simpler system to get the same result is better. But a lot of people love all the moving parts. I mean, look at all the people in the world who love or have made Rube Goldberg machines. I'm not calling PF2 a Rube Goldberg machine, but like, yeah, sure, you could take a cut of butter and put it on your bread. But you could also take off your shoe, which cuts a ribbon, which causes dominoes to fall, which causes a wheel to spin, which causes the fridge to open, which causes the butter to fly through fishing line to cut the butter and land it on the toast. Obviously, this is a hyper-exaggeration, but people also just like complexity. People like options and seeing all the different pieces come together, even if the result is the same. That's why people play different board games. You can play checkers and keep it simple, or you could play Settlers of Catan. The end result is the same. Somebody wins, everyone else loses. That's it. The game was played, but the way you play the game is very different. I guess checkers and chess would have been a much better comparison than checkers and Catan.
It's easier to understand, and it gets through these monotonous battles far quicker. Really, any D20 combat system will fall into that optimal gameplay loop.
Only if you choose to. This is something that deserves its own video, because I disagree with myself here. You know, I said that any D20 system will fall into a repetitive gameplay loop. That is only if you choose to. You do not have to do the best option every combat. You know, sometimes you just swing 3 times and miss 3 attacks. Other times you can reposition. Sometimes I'll take the trip action in PF2 just because it's cinematically cool. Oh, the rogue is about to go? Well, I can trip this guy. Sure, he's still flat-footed because the rogue was already flanking, but now we get that cool cinematic movement of the rogue's sneak attack driving their daggers into the back of this creature on the ground that I just flattened with a trip maneuver. You know? Sometimes doing something because it's cool and because it'll make an awesome cinematic moment is great. You know, my Earth Kineticist Saxamiacus, I decided to use a massive AoE of rocks falling, and yeah, I got me, the summoner, and the fighter in the area because my character's kind of chaotic and a loose cannon. I don't do this often, but in the moment I'm like, I can hit 5 enemies at the cost of only hitting 3 of us. Let's do it. My party members definitely won't fail their saves. The fighter critically failed their save. It was fun. You know, that's a memory now. That time I almost killed our fighter is a core memory of our group. It's a blast. It was all in character. You don't have to make the right choice every single time. There is no right choice. There's just your choice.
Because it's sort of how they're designed at their core. That, and people just love to do big optimal things.
True.
We do. We love big numbers. We love fireballs that wipe out half the room. We love attacking multiple times with critical hits for the maximum amount of damage. But my primary issue with Cody's critique is that he implies that his players are forced to play this way. The way Cody has described it, the only thing his druid player does in combat is shapeshift into a dinosaur and make melee attacks, and thus got super bored of the character because that's all he felt he could do to remain optimal.
See, that's interesting to me. I don't think I make the point in this video, or maybe I do, I don't remember, it's been 3 years. But what about, like, even if that is all you do in combat, combat should only be about half the game. You know, what about the rest of your druid spell slots? What about casting a spell before you shapeshift? What about healing up your party members? What about manipulating nature during exploration? What about casting spells during roleplay? What about shapeshifting into pest form during roleplay to be a literal fly on the wall? What about all these things you can do as a druid? Everything I just described, you can pretty much do at level 1 as a druid, let alone whenever you get dinosaur form, like level 11 or something like that, 12 I think. I don't think I even mention it in this video, that everything we talk about is just the combat. Like, yeah, if you look at almost any role-playing game's combat system, at its basic core level, it's very simple. Do the thing, do the damage, make their hit points 0. It's up to you, the players and the dungeon master, to make it interesting. If you, and the DM included, just do the actions with the most results numerically speaking, yeah, it'll be boring. You attack, they attack, you attack, they attack. Well, hey, what if the wolf grabs the kobold and runs off with him? You know? What if they pick up a player, the ogre picks up the gnome and chucks them across the battlefield? You know, makes some athletics checks, makes some reflex saves, things like that. Even if it'll do less damage, even if you have to make it up a little bit, which, you know, if you're playing D&D 5e especially, you're probably making up a good deal. That's not shade at D&D 5e, that's just how I've seen most of it played, is, you know, feel free to make the game your own. That's what they're designed for. They're not just math.
My druid player just this week asked me if they could go back and retcon some of their character abilities because they were getting bored just turning into dinosaurs and dragons to bite and claw things over and over again.
Now, to start off, I don't think this is a completely fair critique on the entire system. For one thing, the player might just not enjoy the druid gameplay style.
Valid.
This isn't a system-specific complaint, as it happens to a lot of different people.
Especially if it's your first time playing.
I was playing a monk for 3 months in D&D 3.5, and I got pretty bored, so I talked to my GM, we wrote the monk out of the campaign, and now I'm playing a wizard. Some people just don't know if they'll like a gameplay style until they've had a chance to actually try it.
That is so true, especially for tabletop RPGs. You know, it's not like you can look up a tutorial. I mean, you can for like how a class works, but you won't know how it feels until you get to play it. And because, you know, tabletop RPGs are slow, you know, you might only get 2 combats in 4 weeks. So yeah, after about 2 months, maybe you've gotten to do 4 or 5 combat encounters with your character. Yeah, that's a fair point to be like, okay, I gave it 5 fights. I don't like how this plays in combat, you know, this class. And DMs, especially if you've got a first-timer in your group who's never played the system before, be open to retconning, change things around, you know? Maybe tell them, hey, keep the core of your character's story intact, but instead of a shape-shifting druid, you want to be an animal instinct barbarian? Go for it. We'll retcon things, the story will stay the same, because we want you to have fun. I think somewhere along the line of comparing systems and fighting people and arguing and whatever, we lose the fact that these games are about having fun. And we let the rules get in the way of that fun when there is usually a line of text somewhere in each book saying, hey, don't let these rules ruin your game. Don't let the rules get in the way of you and your mates having a great night together telling a story.
But let's get back to a more system-focused point. Let's say they do really enjoy the shape-shifting style of gameplay. Well, then I believe the issue falls in one of 2 ways. The first resolution falls to the player. They're playing a druid, which has a wide assortment of spells at their disposal. Sure, they may have built their character around
but
dinosaur
you still got your
form
spell
to
slots,
make
no matter
melee
how you
attacks
build.
to be optimal, but that doesn't mean they can't cast Flaming Sphere from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
What's awesome about Pathfinder 2e spellcasting classes is that no matter how you build them, your spellcasting proficiency scales the same.
That is something that, again, I feel like I haven't heard talked about nearly enough. A lot of people complain that, oh, spellcasters are weaker than marshals, Well, spellcasters don't need anything to be good. And even if you specialize in a certain way, you specialize as a school of battle wizard with a focus on fireballs and lightning bolts, well, hey, guess what? Your wall of stone and magic missile's a bad example. Well, hey, guess what? Your wall of stone and magic weapon spells still work at full efficiency. Just because you specialized one way doesn't mean you can't play another way when you need to. Sure, you have to have prepared those spells, but otherwise, as long as you don't just prepare 5 damage-dealing spells, you're golden. You can do something else.
Plethora of options and choices here, but if they choose to only use dinosaur form and make melee strikes, the fault kinda lies with the player. Now,
I agree with that. Yeah, if your player is bored but they're refusing to try anything different because it's not quite as optimal, that is a player issue. That is not a system issue. Because guess what? No matter what you do, there will technically always be one best maneuver and option in every situation and scenario. You know where else that's true? Chess. Yeah, it doesn't make the game less engaging, enticing, and cool. It just means that you can make a suboptimal play. And unlike chess, you won't be inherently punished for it. In chess, you make a poor move, yeah, you're giving your opponent a legitimate upper hand. But in TTRPGs, if you make a slightly suboptimal move, chances are you're not losing the game for your party. Oh no, you only did 12 damage with flaming hands instead of 15 damage with magic missile? It's not a big difference.
Cody does make a point about this.
What I mean is, there is an optimal set of actions that you need to do over and over and over.
Oh, he used the word need? I don't even remember him using the word need. That is such a poor choice of words. An optimal course of actions you need to use?
Over again to perform well.
He doesn't even say, perfectly. He just says, well. That is such a gross description of the game. That's not accurate. I don't even remember that. Wow. No, I've never once felt like I need to do this or I'm useless. If I'm a spellcaster, sure, I guess I need to cast a spell, but I have options. The only thing I can think of that is need to do is I'm a fighter, so I need to attack someone because I'm a fighter. But even then, I could trip, I could shove, I could disarm now that it's actually useful. I could use any of my plethora of fighter feats like power attack or whatever else I have. Even as a barbarian, it's not just swing and hit. You don't need to do that. You can sudden charge, you can intimidate, you can do so many things. You don't need to do anything except have fun.
I will agree and admit, it is tough to purposefully play suboptimally.
That is a loaded statement that is truer than I even thought it was back then. Because with Pathfinder 2E's inherent game balance, it's really hard to play suboptimally. Unless you have a 12 in your key ability score, you're gonna be fine. As long as you're not purposefully throwing fireballs at your teammate, ignoring people who need healing, and just not attacking, you're gonna do fine. You're gonna do something. And that's great.
Forcing yourself to make worse choices makes it feel like you're losing at an RPG.
I will never understand that mindset. I will never understand the mindset of winning or losing at an RPG. There's no such thing. You are telling a story. When a character dies in a book, the author didn't lose because the character died. The character didn't lose. Their story just ended, and the story overall continues on. Same can be said for character death. Now obviously don't go out of your way to kill them just for shits and giggles, but if the dice decide a character should die, maybe roll with it, play with it. You're not losing. Even if you TPK, you didn't lose. The story just ended.
because there's this stigma at so many tables that you need to be doing the maximum efficiency amount of damage at all times, or you're bad at the game.
That does still exist. If you talk to the PF2 community at large, that does still exist. People will always try to be doing the maximum numbers at their table. I don't quite understand it. I don't think it's that big a deal, and the difference between maximum numbers and minimum numbers isn't that big of a divide. A lot of it's going to come down to what you roll on the dice, especially with some of the remaster changes, like removing key ability score modifier from cantrips for spellcasters. So a lot of it's going to come down to just raw dice rolls.
I absolutely disagree with this mindset, as I think it's incredibly toxic and not healthy.
I've seen people quit games.
Yes, you should be trying to win a fight, you know? You should be...
I don't like how I said that. I mean, you should be trying to survive the fight. Winning meaning survival or getting the opponent to surrender, but I think the word win is just bad.
Trying to defeat your enemy, usually by dealing as much damage as possible. But you can still do that and get creative and dynamic in combat.
Okay.
In the campaign where I'm playing a wizard in 3.5 D&D, we were fighting a Goliath long-legged spider.
I love this story!
Now, I could have just sat back, cast Fireball or Shocking Grasp to deal the maximum optimal amount of damage to this spider. That could be every single turn, is I hide behind a tree, I throw a Fireball. I hide behind a tree, I cast Magic Missile, and that's it. I just do damage because that is optimal. But that's boring and samey and repetitive, and I don't want to do that.
Hell
so
no.
instead, I ran directly underneath this spider and used my Cloak of the Dark Winds magic item that my GM gave me a few sessions back.
Yes!
I activated it to send a torrent of wind out in every direction, so the GM made fortitude saves on all of the Goliath spider's legs. Enough failed so that the legs were blown out from under it, and this giant, massive spider suddenly fell prone around the party. The rogue went next, and rather than attacking the prone target for sneak attack damage optimally, he chose to climb on top of this thing, pull out his immovable rods, and click them into place on top of the spider's
3.5
torso.
is such a crazy
Because of the way
system.
immovable rods work, the spider could not move and get up because of its position. So it was stuck flailing at us, attacking at pretty big penalties, and we were able to win the fight, not due to maximum DPS output, but because of creative solutions.
God, I love that story. Oh, I love that story. I told it so good there. And it does. That is the story I use that encapsulates everything about RPG creativity. You don't just win by dealing damage. A lot of modern games are difficult because they have enough rules and they portray those rules clearly enough that it feels like you can't do anything else, otherwise you're not following those rules. You know, D&D or Pathfinder 2e, if you have like an immovable rod or a similar item, you know, a lot of times you might not think you could pin a creature down with it because the item has a lot more rules. Or you might not think to try something like this because of the way that modern gaming rulebooks have explained the game. But getting creative with what you have at hand is half the fun of TTRPGs. And it's somewhere I've honestly always struggled as a player. I tend to be the kind of person who's like, I do what my abilities say they can do because that's what it says they're for, you know? I only use my stepping stones to make a ladder or a bridge because that's all it says they're for. But, you know, if you can get creative and take what the rules have explained your ability can do and apply it to things that you don't think it would normally work on, that's where you can unlock some of those crazy big brain strategies to just flip the game on its head, make those super memorable stories, and as long as your GM isn't, like, annoyed by it, I think it adds nothing but positivity to the experience, you know? GMs, try to be flexible, let your players use things in ways they're not intended, and players don't try to abuse that fact, and, you know, I'm not going to put this person on blast specifically, but boy, comments like this are the players that abuse real-world knowledge and, like, utilization of rule loopholes a bit too far.
Like I said, I could have just cast Fireball, and he could have just gotten sneak attacks, and we probably still would have won. But the scene that the cloak and the rods made are stuck in our memories now as a super memorable fight, where there are tons of fights I couldn't tell you exactly how it happened, because we just cast spells and bonked things.
True.
Now, obviously,
Absolutely
the story
true.
is not from the Pathfinder system, but the point I'm making can be applied to any
game.
TTRPG. Getting creative and having fun is far more rewarding than just doing what deals the most damage.
Yes! This guy's smart. Listen to this guy. Being creative and making a memorable moment, way better than just doing the most math.
If a player chooses to only do the optimal strategy, the fault lies with them.
Fact.
Now, if this is not the case, then the fault lies with the GM. Maybe the player really does want to get creative, but just isn't being given any opportunity to do so. Maybe every fight really is just in this flat, open area with no rocks to hide behind, no trees to climb, and just a conga line of flanking fighters beating the crap out of each other.
I've done that before, you know? It's a really easy trap to fall into as a DM or GM to forget to make the environment interesting. And if the monster you've picked is just really resistant to a lot of things, but all it does is physically attack, and all your party can do is physically attack it, that's on the GM. You know, maybe the players could try to get creative. And this is where players asking questions is so helpful. You know, as a GM, if they're fighting in a cave, I might forget to describe or place anything specific. But if my player asks, yo, are there any stalagmites on the ground that I could hide behind? I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, like 10 feet to your left, you could hide behind those. I will almost always say, yes, this is here, if you ask me about something that might be there.
Well, then the fault lies with the GM. This is a tough point to make because in Cody's defense, he was running an adventure path,
Which is
and he was
pre-made.
probably just running the encounters exactly as written.
Yep.
Now, I haven't personally played Age of Ashes, so take this with a grain of
I
salt.
still haven't.
But everyone I've talked to has told me that it's pretty much the weakest adventure path for 2E
To this day.
by a pretty wide margin.
Yup.
And it's really easy to see why. Keep in mind that this was the first adventure path that launched with the Pathfinder 2E system, and even Paizo at that point was basically still learning their own system. So it's very possible they
That's true.
accidentally made an overtuned campaign that required players to be perfectly optimal in order to even survive.
I do still give those early adventure paths a pass. You know, that and Extinction Curse, Age of Ashes and Extinction Curse, I give both of those a pass because the developers were still learning their own game. Now that we've entered remaster territory, since the game is mostly the same, they don't get that defense anymore. So I hold their modern content to a higher level of quality, and overall, they've proved they can. I haven't read Season of Ghosts, but I have it on my bookshelf now. I've got so many adventures on my bookshelf here, and a lot of the more recent ones are incredibly well balanced, incredibly well written. Like, oh my god, Strength of Thousands, even though that came out 2 years ago, Strength of Thousands is phenomenal.
If this is the case, it is an inherent flaw with the adventure itself, but I don't think it's an inherent flaw with the system. Again, some of this does lie with the GM. As the game master, you have the power to change every single aspect of every single encounter, even in a pre-written adventure.
We've been saying
In a
this for
vacuum,
4
yeah, that
years,
seems
baby!
difficult and cumbersome, but remember that at this point, Cody's been playing this game for about a year in this same adventure with the same party, up until their TPK. This far in...
I don't know why. I still do them to this day. The quick zooms always get me, especially when I can't see them coming. Oh my god.
To the game, though, you should have a good enough idea of your party, what they're capable of, and whether these encounters seem balanced or not.
The encounter seems
for
like it's
your
going to
team.
wipe you. Change
If your
it.
party is going to be fighting something they have almost no hope of beating, change it. As a GM, change it and make it a more fun, more interesting encounter with more opportunities to get creative and do things, or force them to do something completely different. As an example of what I would do in this situation, I'll use an adventure I've actually played, The Slithering. If you don't want any spoilers for the Slithering adventure, just little teeny tiny spoilers, go ahead and skip to this timestamp.
Oh, I
okay?
actually remember the
3,
timestamp!
2,
I never
1.
remember that anymore.
So the first few encounters in The Slithering are oozes, and oozes can be really difficult for certain characters, namely swashbucklers and rogues, because oozes are immune to precision damage. Now, precision damage is basically where swashbucklers and rogues shine, so if you take that away from them, they're
Useless.
immediately way weaker. Let's pretend my entire party wants to play swashbucklers and rogues. 2 swashbucklers, 2 rogues, and I don't want to say, no, you can't play that. Instead, I would change just something tiny. At the beginning of the campaign, an NPC approaches you and asks you for help. Maybe add a detail where this NPC gives them a satchel of a powder, and they can lace their weapons with this powder that gets past that precision damage immunity. Maybe these oozes are super weak to this powder because it dries them out and allows them to deal their precision damage like normal. And done. It's simple, unintrusive, and everyone gets to play this adventure with the character they want, and you don't have to say no. No one's forced to play a wizard to deal damage to these oozes. Everyone can play what they want. You just change it so that everyone has fun with it. I firmly believe this is one of...
I love that even back then my focus was still all about fun. And that's what it's always been. Fun is the focus. Fun is the focus.
The GM's most important responsibilities. Every player should be able to have fun with their character. They should not be forced to make a certain character. Or forced to play a certain way. If the campaign is too difficult and your players are being forced to play optimally, tone down the difficulty, take an enemy out, remove some hit points, use more condition effects rather than just blasting the party with direct hit point damage. Make fights engaging and dynamic using all of the tools that Pathfinder 2e gives you.
Which is a lot.
That was a long example, but I do think it applies here. In a pre-written campaign, even if every single encounter is on a flat, open field the way it's written, change it. Add some cover, add elevation, give enemies completely unique abilities that aren't even in the rulebooks. Pull something out that your players will never expect. You have the power to make anything happen in this game. So don't let a pre-written adventure or the rules force you or your players to do anything.
And I love the defense to this, because I've gotten so many comments on this video. How many comments does this video have? That's so satisfying. How is there 1,234? That's spectacular. Anyway, so many comments on this video saying, well, if you're gonna change one rule, you might as well throw them all out. Or if you're gonna change one encounter, why even use the pre-written? Because it's a lot easier than making your own game, my dude. My guy. It's okay to like 99% of a system and want to change one rule. You don't like the critical hits in PF2? Cool, get rid of them. Oh, you wish D&D had the +10, -10 critical hit system of Pathfinder? You don't have to change to Pathfinder. Just add that +10, -10 to D&D 5e. You're allowed to do this, and don't let random people on the internet tell you that you're wrong for changing one rule in any direction. If you like the system you're playing and you just want to change a little bit, hot take, you're allowed to. No one's gonna get you in trouble or report you to the Paizo police because you took the 4 spell traditions of primal, occult, divine, and arcane, Jesus, and applied them to your D&D campaign. You get to do that because it's fun. No one else cares. Change whatever rules you like, and don't let anyone tell you you're wrong for doing that.
I could keep talking about this subject, but I would start repeating myself even more than I already am. It's very easy to get locked into the optimal mindset. You know, we like doing the best we can do. But if you start getting creative and just taking a chance and experimenting, opt to shove or trip instead of attacking, even if it's not the most optimal thing, you'll be surprised how interesting and fun that can make these encounters in ways...
With an asterisk, as long as your GM buys in too. You know, if your GM is just going to run the monsters as efficiently as humanly possible and punish you for getting creative, that, you know, obviously that's not going to be fun for you, even though I don't know if it'd be fun for the GM. It wouldn't be fun for me as the GM. But yeah, sometimes if you choose to get creative and your GM actively punishes you for it, that's on them, not on you. But in a perfect world, you get creative and the GM rewards you for your creativity, and that leads to the best tables I've ever played at.
You really might never expect. Maybe I'm biased, and I've just gotten really lucky with my experiences in the system, but I have enjoyed every single opportunity I've had to play Pathfinder 2e.
To this day, I think I can still agree with that. I don't think I've ever been part of a PF2 one-shot or campaign that I didn't have at least some fun with. You know, I don't regret any of them. Some were better than others. Some had some low points where I wasn't as invested. But overall, I've really enjoyed my time playing Pathfinder 2e. Even the campaigns that didn't finish. You know, I did a campaign with Four Corners podcast at one point, and, you know, I think we stopped after like 7 or 8 sessions just because life got in the way. But they were still damn fun, because I got to play a new character with new people in a new environment and try out these new things, and the GM was doing some really cool stuff for us by, like, letting me find a dog so I could take the Cavalier dedication, even though it wasn't in the pre-written rules. It's when the GM makes the adventure their own, even if it's pre-written, and, more importantly, caters it to the players in the adventure. That's when the game takes off.
For the past 11 months. I look forward to being a player every Tuesday, and I look forward to running my Patreon campaigns every other weekend.
Yo, old school patrons, Sean, everybody else, how you doing? I see you. I remember you. I remember the Underground campaign. I remember the Island of the Dead campaign. Holla. Why did I say holla? That was weird.
Honestly, most of all, I love talking about it with you guys.
Same. Yeah, oh my god. Oh my god. I think that's something I miss, that I feel like the channel has lost a little bit of over time, is... And part of it's just because of the YouTube algorithm and what videos get watched. I miss just being able to talk about the game with you guys, about random parts of the game, random aspects of it, my opinions on it. And it's unfortunate, because a lot of those videos fall by the wayside, and the videos that really get the views are class guides. And, you know, there's not a whole lot of time to really talk about the class when I'm going over everything in it. So, you know, I make those class guides because I have to be able to pay my bills. But I do miss opportunities like this, like what I'm doing right now, where I can just talk about the game, about opinions, about, you know, even if it constitutes as drama, quote unquote, about the game, I really do enjoy talking about it, because I think, A, it's important to discuss, and B, it's just fun. I love talking about my methodology, my beliefs when it comes to TTRPGs, and I love comparing them to yours, his, that guy behind you in your closet, and even Cody's. You know, even if we disagree on every fundamental level, I love talking about tabletop RPGs with anybody, as long as they're not a jerk about it.
But I do highly recommend giving it another try at some point with some of these ideas taken into account. Maybe even as a player instead of a GM. I'd happily run a game for you any day, Cody. Call me. But at least we can all agree on one thing. That Paizo is one of the best damn companies out there right now, regardless what you think of their actual systems.
True! Oh my god. Even back then, just loving on Paizo. We always have, we always will. Stand Paizo. There's still a minute left of the video. What is it?
Oh, one final thing I want to add in post because I couldn't fit it anywhere in the main script. If anybody is experiencing that forced optimal boredom like Cody describes, I highly recommend trying the free archetype variant.
Yes!
It does not make your character stronger, but it does give every player way more options to play with. In my Patreon campaign, we have a cleric who used their free archetype to multiclass into druid. And so they have all these different nature abilities and divine abilities that they pull out when they need to. They can turn into a gnat, but they can also, you know, call down a holy smite. It's awesome. So if you're experiencing that kind of limited optimal gameplay, try the free archetype variant, convince your GM. If you are a GM, use it. It is phenomenal, and in my opinion, the optimal way to play the Pathfinder 2e system. Okay, now the video's actually over. Bye, guys.
Oh my god, the free archetype call out. This is a good video. I was going into this ready to be like, oh god, I'm gonna be cringing, I'm gonna be like disagreeing or hating how I portrayed it. It's so well done. Like, the points flow so well. I ramble a little bit, I tell a couple too many stories, but I think what's important, I don't use much of Cody's video. You know, I mostly make my own points. You know, I love this video. For the last 3 years, I have resented this video for being one of my top viewed of all time. I don't resent it anymore. I think I mainly resented it because of the drama that became of it. You know, a lot of drama, a lot of issues arose because of this video around my channel, and it gave me some really bad anxiety and stress. And so I resented this video for that. But having finally rewatched it for the first time in 3 years, I'm so happy with how it came out. I'm really happy with how I handled it. It also has one of my favorite comments I've ever received on a video. XP to level 3 writes, as a mostly 5e DM for the past years, encounter building is the cornerstone of fun RPG games. I think this is great advice. It meant a lot to me that Jacob wrote that. I've had the pleasure of talking to Jacob on a few occasions since then, and he's a fantastic human being. So that's it. 3 years later, there's the reaction. I might react to some of my other old videos, because I've got a lot that I just haven't done in a long time. And I'm curious to see how they are, because they can't all be this good. But let me know. I'll judge it by the viewership. So if you want to see me react to more of my own videos like this, leave a comment, leave a like, watch the video 3 times. I don't know. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And yeah, it really validates everything I've done as a creator for the last 4 years. Yeah. Did I say 4 years? I think I meant 3 years. No, it'll be 4 years. That's terrifying.